We're gonna have a Kickturn party tonight. All right.
Hey, welcome to Kickturn Party. Tonight on Kickturn Party, or today, or yesterday, or whenever you're going to be watching it, we've got
the legend
John Gibson.
Tex Gibson
Legendary
in the house on Kickturn Party.
Legendary skater from Texas, skated for Zorlak, skated for Caster,
He
skated
was
for Alva.
Yeah.
You know, hey, so we've got him here, and he's joining
One of the
us.
smoothest guys out in the 80s, especially when everybody was West Coast, came and killed everybody.
So we're going to talk a little bit about his history, about what he's going on, and the time he came to visit Knoxville.
Yeah, we want to hear your Knoxville stories.
So
all right,
go from there. So John, yeah, how things been going with you?
It's been going pretty good, you know, just hot as crap.
Yeah.
So hot.
So you guys, you're not flooded out down there. It's like either hot or flooding.
Yeah, it's not flooding yet, but that could change in about 5 minutes. You never know.
Exactly. Okay, so let's start with, what are you doing now? I mean, what do you do for a living? What do you, family? What's your life like?
What's going on?
Well, I was married, still married right now, but we're separated. But that's all, mutual. Got 3 kids. I got Angie, 43, Annabelle's 19, and I got a son, Luke. He's 14. I got married back in '96, and then that's when skating was really different then.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a job in the production business. I'm like so I joined the union, the IA, the IITs. You probably might know them. I think they're pretty big up there in Knoxville or around.
Yeah, we've got a few people that are in the industry that we know.
Yeah, so I did that, way back then. And now I got me a nice cush union job I've been doing for the last 10, 15 years.
Killer, good work if you can get it.
Yeah, it's good. And then, Lee, my partner Lee at Embassy, he wanted to do skateboarding. We're like, well, let's make some decks. That was around 2008.
How's it doing today?
Yeah, it's doing pretty good, man. Doing good. We're trying to get, we're just trying to keep the dream alive, what we have.
Man, I was a big Zorlak kid growing up in the 80s, and I actually rode a whole stack of Craig Johnson boards. Never rode yours, but I rode a bunch of Craig Johnsons. But yeah, so I'm one of the older guys now that's buying your reissues. I rode the Albrook board, so that's the reissue Albrook brother, and that's my original one that I actually broke my shoulder on.
Oh, killer.
What was the contest?
No, it was the farm ramp jam on Halloween.
Okay.
Where it was like the biggest thing going on the East Coast every Halloween. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
And I went with Batmite and Doug Walker and Jay, and it was the Knoxville contingency going to the farm ramp. And the day before practicing at the Wilson, North Carolina ramp, I pretty much ate shit, split a helmet open, and put myself in the hospital.
Yeah, this was back in the 80s. Back in like 88 or so, it was a big contest they used to have in Raleigh every year. Schroeder showed up, and Reese Simpson, Blaze Blue. It was back in those days.
I remember that. I didn't get a chance to go, but I remember them talking about it.
Yeah,
Let's talk a little bit about how everything started to ferment in Texas, because it was such a big stir. And I know you've told the story a million times, but let's hear about some of the roots of what kicked all this off for you.
And it was going down in Houston, right?
Yeah. I mean, when skateboarding took on the big, craze in 76, the birth of your thing, right? The whole country pretty much exploded, right? Everybody was riding a skateboard, but it kind of died out, after summer, everybody had to go to school, but then these people latched on like I did and kept on skating through. And Houston always had a really big scene because those surfers, diehard surfers there, and they had the longboard. They were just carving everywhere and did everything. So up in that scene in '76, and then we just started coming. Then the skate parks came around, and we just kept going, and it just turned. And Jeff Newton's making boards. I know I'm kind of jumping around, but if you can get the story, it just kind of grew from 76 on and still going.
Yeah, that's actually, you hit on a couple of really good points there that I always wanted to ask you about, John, was what were some of the early parks down there in Houston? You know, I mean, we had some up here and they were all, you know, poured by not skate park people. They were all wavy. And
so where were you skating 76 through 80?
So the first skate park we had was in Pasadena, like the town I was living in. And it was a hole in the wall. I mean, a hole in the ground, man. Basically, they just dug a hole and dumped concrete in it. It's called Skaters Craters, right?
And it was.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was. And it had cracks. It was like skating on the moon, if you ever been there.
Nice.
And so we skated there for a while, and then we hear about a new park opening called Gulf Coast Skate Park. And it was really good. It would still be good today. But it didn't have vertical, right? But it was all cement. You could skate every inch of it. And eventually they got a quarter pipe, put some pool coping on it. That's kind of where I learned ollie airs on.
nice.
And I was on the park team with Ken Fillion. You know, we used to get paid to make everybody wear equipment. And we just ruled that place for a while. And then we heard about across town, other side of town, they had all these other parks. There were like 5, 6 parks in the 70s. You know, at Skateboard City, it was like a whole, they just dumped concrete in a big hole there too. But they all had to build ramps on the side, you know, to keep up. And then Solid Surf had a pool, but that pool, right when they finished that pool, they dozed the whole park. And it just goes on. The fiberglass park, they had built it was indoor fiberglass. It's where the P ramp came from and parts of the clown ramp.
Right.
From. Yeah, and so Houston was a really thriving skate city for ever since I started skating.
You guys had a little scene going on and you had a lot of parks and everything. And it was kind of the same thing, you know, in a lot of the country. And then things just kind of died. You know, I mean, I know it died here in Tennessee, but the hardcores hung on.
People realized that you couldn't make any money.
And I'm, yeah.
Yeah, and all the parks kept getting sued, you know, people breaking down.
I'm sure it was like, you know, I'm sure it was like everywhere else, you know, you wound up with like 5, 10, 12 hardcores that were keeping the scene alive.
Yeah, exactly. Those hardcores in each city around Texas and Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, Corpus, even and down in Matamoros or South Padre Island. I mean, those core groups built ramps once the scene died.
That's the era that I grew up in. I met Batmite and Cabler when I was about 10 years old, and they had a vert ramp about a block and a half from my house. And so that's what skateboarding was for me for the first 5 years. Like street skating was literally getting across town or going into the store to get beer or something.
Yeah, you know, you go shoot parking garages on a Sunday afternoon when nobody's there in downtown.
Is that kind of how you wound up meeting Johnson and Fillion and all the rest of the crew, you know, Phillips and all those guys? Is because when things died down, the scenes began to coalesce on each other.
Yeah, well, you know, in the 70s when the parks were happening around 77, 78, early 78, you know, Craig and Dan Wilkes and some other guys, Phillips wasn't quite on the scene yet. They used to come down from Dallas and come here and we'd have park contests. We'd skate against them, but we didn't really know each other, right? Like, who's those guys from Dallas, man? Jeez, they're all padded up.
It was like East Coast, West Coast, but right there, right in the middle of Texas.
Exactly. And then we would go to Dallas and skate at their park and stuff, man. And that was, you know, it was going off big time. And then we just met, you know, became really good friends. And that's the way it's been. And when they died, then we were the core guys left in the city. We had in Houston, you know, it's me, Billion, Prince, Chasen, Gene Hare. I mean, go down the list. And then there's Craig and Wilkes and Phillips and all them. And we had the ramps all around the state. And we just started building up from there, did our own thing.
Yeah, yeah. And that's essentially what happened on the East Coast and the Mid-East, you know, I mean, it was the same everywhere, you know.
You guys had the same thing going on like we did. We just had to do it ourselves. It was like
the Mess series in the 80s.
Yes, exactly. It's great.
It was what you had to do.
right about that same time frame was, and I bought this. John, you may remember this.
Oh yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're on the
Uh-huh.
cover there. This is when
Yeah,
you
you got the
guys.
center picture.
Yeah, I got the center picture. I've got this issue, and I've got it. McGill signed it. I need to run into you and Craig
Okay.
so I can get both you guys' signature on it at some point. I was hoping
All right.
it was gonna be at Kona, but it didn't
Yeah,
quite
you
work
guys
out.
missed out on Kona 40
Um,
and 45. It was a good time.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that
I
later.
know, man. What's up? I mean,
But
crazy.
so you guys came to Knoxville and we had a really good time there. And that was back when, like I said, there were little spot scenes all the way around. There was a little scene in Texas. There was a little scene in Atlanta. There was a little scene in Tennessee. There was a little scene up in the Northeast.
Florida had seen.
Yeah, Florida had a scene, around Kona. Thrasher took you guys on the East Coast tour. And you guys.
Yeah, they kind of sponsored us. Yeah, they kind of sponsored us. We got a little trailer.
Yeah, I think
I wish I still had a shirt from it. I don't know if any of you guys do.
I had a shirt and it got stolen, and I'm
Yeah.
so bummed because that was a classic one. But that's a picture of the trailer, and our friend Velvet is laying on top of the trailer. She was so stuck to the magazine.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
we
can
got
hear you.
Remember
It's
the little cute girl wearing blonde girl wearing the Coke shorts?
Yes, uh-huh.
That
Every
was
skater was in
Solid
love with
Mary.
Jeff Grosso was in love with her.
Yeah, so Grosso put it on one of his love letters, and
Oh yeah.
like who's this chick? And so I got in touch with him, and apparently him and Lucero, they were
Uh-huh.
like 14 or 15, were looking at the magazine, fell in love with her, and they were like finding out who this girl was.
Well,
And she still lives here in Knoxville.
yeah. So one Christmas, we actually got her to record a "Merry Christmas, Jeff" and sent it to him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it totally freaked him out. And he was like, "No way!"
When you guys came through, so we went to Joe Bauer's ramp,
Uh-huh.
which was pretty cool, and that's the picture of you on the cover of Thrasher. And then we went to that abandoned pool, the charcoal bowl. And
Yeah.
we skated there for a
Oh,
while, which is
cool.
pretty
I didn't
gnarly.
realize that.
That's what
That one's kind of hazy going to the pool, but I know we went there and everything, but my memory about that must be but I remember the ramp, and I definitely remember the party afterwards.
Yeah.
And I definitely remember those stills. And the pool is kind of hazy. I don't know. We must not have skated it very long.
We probably didn't. It was pretty quick, and it was a pretty gnarly pool. It wasn't really something you want to skate for like 2 hours or anything.
Yeah.
It was like hit it and quit it.
Yeah, we probably all beat up anyway from the party.
So you guys were dropping hills late that night in Knoxville.
Yes.
And
I
you
remember. Go ahead.
You said you guys were Supermaning them, and I was just like, what?
Yeah, we were. I don't know. I think we got all rowdy at the house. Whose house was that anyway?
That was Christie's.
That was Chrissy's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I owe her an apology. And things got going. I think she threw us out or something. I don't really remember. I just remember, let's go shoot the hill. And we just grabbed our boards, dropped down the driveway, and didn't look back. We didn't know how it was turning or anything. We just know it from driving up to the house. And man, it was such an adrenaline rush. We just kept doing it all night long until the sun came up. Until Murph and Craig.
The hill drops down into a very busy street.
Yeah, that's the end of
And
it.
it's a T. There's nowhere to really run out. So I was really amazed you guys were doing that. But
I remember going down the driveway, it hits the street, then you go through kind of almost like a snake going down, and then you get on this other road, and then now it drops in like right to the T where it ends.
Right.
That's how Murph fly all the way across that, hit the bush. I thought he was.
Remember, it was like
bounced right off of him. So
I was like, where did the Texas guys go? Because Newton was still hanging out there. And
yeah.
I was like, where'd those guys go? I don't know. And then Craig came back, and his palms were gone. He had nothing here. I mean, it was just it was just totally screaming hand, meat palms.
Yeah, I remember Murph and I were like side by side, right? Well, Murph was a little ahead of me, and then here comes Craig right between us, and we noticed he's head first, like, Superman. suicide style, man. Then Murph like kind of freaked out and he sketched and slapped, and his board hit right under Craig's head and not hit his board. And he slid. They just both slid. I missed it all and continued on, and both of them slid. The palms were completely gone.
That's
They
great.
couldn't even hold a beer the next day or for the rest of the trip. man.
Exactly. We did a little interview with Murph, and he talked a little bit about that. That's
Yeah, I saw a little bit of that. I thought that was good.
yeah, that was a fun time. That was a crazy night. We had a lot of fun. That was a really good time. I know you guys had a good time. I'm glad we were able to treat you guys up here in Knoxville and have a good time with all that.
Yeah, well, tell Christy, I think we broke a coffee table or something. We were playing quarters.
You know, all I remember is you guys were raging, slam dancing, and
Yeah,
living room. I passed out on the floor, and I heard
later.
later that you guys were like, "Let's give him a mohawk," and you guys went skating instead. So thank God, I
yeah,
didn't wake up with a mohawk next
yeah.
day.
That was Gerald, man.
Yes,
Dog food for money because he had no money on that.
he had no money, and we were feeding him dog food for a
He had
dollar.
he had to do party tricks for everybody.
Yeah. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's good. Fun.
So speaking of, so is Newton still around on the scene?
Yeah, I saw him. I went up to Dallas not that long ago to Mikey Crumb's little 4-down thing,
Sure.
and I saw Newton there. So he's out there hanging out. You know, he's doing his thing,
Yeah.
living life.
I hit him up about 7 or 8 years ago, trying to see if I could get a copy of that picture of me on the cover, and he kind of disappeared right after that, and I never.
Well, you know, I try to get him. You know how many pictures he's got, man. That
Exactly.
Stuff from all those sessions back then. He said there's so many that he can't even look through them. I go, man, let's do it. Do a book like Mofo and Grant.
Yeah, I'll buy a copy.
Yeah.
It'll
Hell
get
yeah.
I'd be
Right.
more than happy to pay him good money for a good good high res picture.
I think you might have a reason he's spitting on it, man. I don't know.
Yeah. So keeping on that track, I've got this other one here.
Oh yeah.
That's that's you on the cover.
Jeff on the back.
A few years after that,
Yeah.
at the Amarillo Pipes. And it's funny when we were asking you 10 questions.
Front side is so high up in there too.
Yeah,
it's so
That's
gnarly.
sweet. When we were asking you 10 questions, I asked you your favorite spot, and you said Amarillo Pipes, which is
Yeah.
really funny because when we did the 10 questions with Salba down in Kona, he said the exact same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like it's like something you would make for skateboarding, but it wasn't made for skating. No water's ever gone through it. It's smooth as it's like marble. It's great, man. It's cool.
Wow.
Wow.
So,
And it's never really been out in the elements, so it's still
Yeah, exactly.
Still
Because it's
perfect.
like overflow.
What are we waiting on?
The high side of the dam, the high
So
side of the
Do you
if it
know if
ever
it's still there?
have to go over the dam, it would drain in. And
Right.
it never will, unless the ice cap melt or something.
Do you know if it's still there? Is it still skatable?
I don't know if it's still skatable, but it's still there. But after all, after the cover, after Streets of Fire, we're taking Salva there, and then people going back, started getting really busy there. And I think they put some rebarb or something down the sides of it so you can. Because there were like even BMXers going in there and doing it and stuff, and it got really crazy. I don't know. That's what I hear. I haven't been there. Who knows? Some people might have got in there and took that stuff out. We should have kept it secret, I think, man. But they skated it in the 70s, like Blackheart skated it back then. I think Salva did too, back in the late 70s.
right.
And
Wow.
they kept
Okay.
it was totally a secret until we had, we knew somebody that knew where it was.
Until it was on the cover
Until
of
it was
Thrasher.
on the cover of
Yeah.
Thrasher.
Yeah.
That was it.
When I went, we took Salva back, a couple years after that. But we didn't get busted when that was on the cover, right? We got at dawn and we got out without with no police involved. We took Salva there with his 8-man camera crew, and then Grosso and a whole bunch of Santa Cruz teams. That was a bust. That's when the guy cops writing his tickets, and
Oh, no way.
go right they're like filming us. That's like going to be part of the video, I guess. And that one cop goes, "Yeah, my son showed me the skateboard magazine. This was on the cover of it. I couldn't believe it." It's like, I'm right there.
Yes, officer, that'd be me.
Everybody's gonna hang out here tonight. All right. We'll pass out in the flat. All right. Tonight. We got nothing better to do than to take 6 runs, drink a dozen brews. Don't talk about anything else. We don't wanna know. We're dedicated to beers, holes, and bros. Backside Thrasher, Reptile Ground, Kickturn, garbage. We'll hang out by the peanut pool all night and every night. And go someplace else and smoke and yell. It's Friday night. We got nothing better to do than take 6 runs, drink a dozen brews.